Hello, everybody. Welcome again to our business nightcap. My name is Awi Makapas. I'm the lead consultant of Paths to Purpose Consultancy. Joining me tonight are my fellow members of the Business Groomers Power Team of BNI Hawk Chapter, Mr. Fernando, Dudes Academia, Coach Jejo Vicencio. Yan. Later on, I'm going to ask both of them to introduce themselves. If you want to explore possible capital or financing options, then this is the business nightcap for you tonight. This is beneficial for you if your business, especially if you have finished validating your business idea, or testing the waters with what you're currently offering, or your systems and processes are standardized, if you are ready for hypergrowth with capital injection. We're so lucky tonight to be joined by two esteemed guest speakers. And the first one of our guests is Doc- Dr. Attorney Edrich Lito Gomez, or Attorney Red. He is a partner of Arsadon Oronos and Associates CPAs, a firm which is uniquely comprised mostly of CPA lawyers. He graduated both in BS Financial Management and Accountancy. Then he proceeded to take law and subsequently passed the bar in 2016. He's also a toy collector and loves reading comic books. I think you will see that on his on the poster behind him that he's a fan, and also his shirt. How can I miss the shirt? All right, so hi, Attorney Red.
Hi,
Thanks so much for
Awi.
joining us tonight.
Thank you,
And then, of
Press Awi.
course, yes, thank you. And later on, Attorney Red, I'm going to ask you to say a little more something about yourself. All right, moving on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Francis Simsim. He is a founder, entrepreneur, operator, investor, and enabler mentor in the Asian tech startup scene. Having started, exited, invested, and mentored numerous startups in the region. The startups that he started or he was a part of are wheninmanila.com, Blogapalooza, and Social Light. His investments were original pitch VC or venture capital, venture partner in regional firms, and he's also an enabler for Mentor in Meta, SOSV. Later on, Francis, I'm going to ask you to tell us more about these Tectonic Summit and other programs. As a venture builder, he was also part of 917 Ventures and currently FabC, India's largest venture builder. Thank you so much for joining us today, Francis.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, it's our pleasure. Okay, so the format of this business nightcap is really just a nightcap. So as business owners, we have some questions that are we have some burning questions, and we have also brought with us some questions from fellow business owners that we have been talking to, especially being part of the largest global business networking organization in the world. So maybe if I could get started with the first order of the day is maybe ask our speakers to say a little more about themselves and what sort of what brought them into the topic of financing or the financing scene in particularly here in the Philippines. I know that Francis also has a lot of regional experience, but particularly in the Philippines, what do you guys, what were the origins of your interest in this field and involvement in this field? So maybe we can first start with Attorney Gomez.
For me, I really enjoyed the setting, government setting before. I started my career in a Securities and Exchange Commission. So from there, it evolves from being part of the legal finance team, and then I joined the procurement. Also joined procurement both in government and public
Yeah.
private settings. And of course, banking eventually, we and my partners created an avenue eventually for learning banking relations and banking regulations. So yeah, that's how I enjoy the number side of it, but not totally. Hindi
I
masyado.
wish I can say the same thing. I enjoy numbers. Thank you, Attorney Gomez, Attorney Red.
Thank you.
And what about you, Francis? Paano ka napunta? How did you get into this space?
I think it's very interesting kasi you see, you look at startups, diba? Mga technology startups that you hear, Facebook, all these stuff that you hear about. It's the same thing over and over again. These guys keep raising funds, no? So naturally, as a tech startup, kasi you want to grow as fast as you can, and therefore the only way to grow it is to raise capital that fast. And naturally, the question then goes back to why can't the older industries raise capital, right? And if you look at Philippines, ang laki ng opportunity. We're not asking the right questions, and I call it the Manny Pacquiao complex, where we're too humble. When you ask about Filipinos about their business, meron lang akong tindahan dun sa kanto, we're doing really well, we're okay, diba? Pero in fact, they're actually very big. And that part is something that if we highlight the right way with investors, I don't think there will be a chance of us not raising capital, and I think we'll raise so much capital here if we do it the right way.
Yeah, you definitely touched on something that's very interesting for me because that goes deep into our culture, di ba? You're not supposed to toot your own horn. You're not supposed to, yung Tagalog version nun is bawal magbuhat ng sariling bangko. Di ba? And if you do that, and another is, I think in the past couple of years, yung ikaw nang matalino, ikaw nang magaling. It's like we're not allowed to be intelligent, we're not allowed to be smart. So yeah, it's very good to explore that also, if we have time, no, during the, but it's, I think that's also very relevant. um to maybe any one of, maybe either Jejo or Dudes, you can start asking the questions to our esteemed guests tonight. Meron ba kayong burning question that you would want to ask our guests?
I can start.
Yes,
Ah,
Dudes.
marami akong tanong kasi pero I think I can start with the foundational question. So maliban sa utang, aside from getting a loan from the bank or asking your parents for money, what are the financing options available for a business owner? I mean, sure, for tech startup we hear investments and so on, but for other businesses, rarely do we hear that. What really are financing options available out there for us to leverage? Ika nga.
Um, I think I can categorize it into three types. Of course, the first one is loan. So, financing, whatever you call it. And then the second one is investment. And then the third one is grant. So, it's 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 safe to say that those three can be you can categorize it under those three that I mentioned, because sometimes there are modes or accessing capital, pero it will still fall under those categories. It's how you it's a different approach lang. Kumbaga, at the end of the day, it still falls under loan because there's a percentage or interest or investment, there's a consideration, and then there's this grant for a specific purpose. Parang ganun. So, those three, I can categorize this with those three types of fund.
Francis?
Yeah, completely completely agree with the attorney. No? So it's really just those three. Tapos may mga variations lang na nandun. So let's take for example loans. There's different types of loans. Similar to a personal loan, diba? There's home loans, car loans, and the like. Similarly for business, There are different types of loans that you can avail of. But of course, depending yan kung ano yung appetite din ng borrower or the company and the owner. Kasi if you want to raise on equity, which is selling your shares, that's another matter. You want to raise on loan, that's also another matter, which carries interest. Grants naman, of course, it's great and all, pero where do we find these grants? And those are questions that I think are difficult to answer unless you know where to go.
All right. If a follow-up question ko na, if I may, for the investment side of things, kasi sa loan, nakikita ko siya regularly on, actually everywhere na business loans, collateral and collateral loans, OCR, iwan mo, ganyan, and so on. But for investments, uh, kailangan may network ka pa to understand these things. It's not really something that you can hear from your friends, or even in school you don't hear this often. What are the investment options ba that a business owner should know about, and how to get uh, at least the first set of financing that you need to grow your business? Attorney Red.
Financial options when it comes to investment. You know, it's I cannot answer that on a straight
Mm-hmm.
approach, because when you talk about investment, it pertains pa rin, or this requires pa rin an effort from your end. So it's best to on how you are exposed to which type of investment. So what and how and when you will be exposed to those kinds of investment transaction. Because at the end of the day, your business, ikaw pa rin yung gagawa. You still have to find it. And sometimes it's very rare for a business owner to um, you know the one or the investor will go to you as a for a startup business, will go to you and then make an investment. So ang pinaka ano talaga dyan is how do you want to be exposed. So if you want to be exposed of a possible investment, of course you have to deal with the commercial aspect, which is marketing, how you sell your business. And given na kasi may investment side din, may mga other financial institutions that does investment. So you can do that kind of option, or you can find ways then, such as uh, trading, stocks trading. So how do you use it? It depends on you, whether you do an investment or you talk to someone that can do probably eventually an investment for your business.
Thank you, Attorney Red.
How about si Attorney Francis? I think merong mas ano sa kanya.
Naging
Naging,
attorney na ngayon si
naging,
Francis.
naging attorney na rin ako. Sige, sige. Actually, just to expound on attorney's points, no? There's actually three ways you can go about it. Yung unang-una na tawag namin dito is the 3Fs. Friends, families, and fools. So these are the people you go to at the beginning. Syempre, pag nagsisimula ka, nobody knows who you are. Hindi naman nila alam anong negosyo. Paano kanila pagkakatiwalaan? Therefore, the closest ones you're gonna go to are people you already know. So friends, families, and fools. Now, when you talk about it sounds easy pero mahirap yan kasi you have to go to your family. Halos para kang uutang sa pamilya mo just to get your business started, right? And the fools part, you can categorize that. I know it sounds bad, but essentially the way it is it's really angel investors. No? These are high net worth individuals. Nalalapitan mo, people who have succeeded in certain industries. Lalapit ka ngayon and you're gonna say, hey, I have this plan. Ito yung plano kong gawin and I wanna raise, kunwari lang, 2 million pesos. And gusto ko kasing mag-expand nung certain part ng business ko and I want to have this done. So that's the first one. No? So friends, families, and fools. The second one is the venture capitalist. So typically, itong mga VCs naman, as you would hear them, no? They are the ones that look for high growth potential. So, medyo mahihirapan ka kung very traditional ng business mo kasi they're looking for really mabilisan. So, if you can imagine, mga tech companies is one. Pero for example, did you know that Pickup Coffee, diba, raised significant amount of funding recently? But when you look at it, oh, parang coffee shop, no? Parang coffee shop. Pero the play that they have is a high growth potential, which is they're saying that they're a tech company. So it's a very different mindset. No? Different mindset. Same, they're just selling coffee, but if you think about it, iba siya from a typical, alam natin, mga Starbucks at Coffee Bean. No? So that's what makes them different. That's what venture capitalists flock towards. They go to these. Now, the last one, and these are typically the guys that you'd hear a lot more, these are the private equity firms. Ito yung mga lalapidan mo when medyo malaki-laki na ang kailangan mo. And you're saying, oh, kailangan ko ng ano na, dollars na pinag-uusapan, no? $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, and more, no? And these are the guys that invest towards different funds naman to ng mga successful families or companies na nag-i-invest into high growth potential for maximum return. So they want to invest in your company on a larger scale, and they want to own a significant chunk of your company. Pero in exchange, syempre, you get the capital, you get the support, and other aspects that come with it. So ito, maraming mga traditional industries that were done this way. Maraming nakakuha. Like the Bistro Group was invested upon by a PE firm, private equity. Yun yung reason why they're able to expand in malls na sariling may section ng Bistro Group sa isang mall. That's exactly the reason why. So yun, those are the three options.
Very interesting. Meron tayong chat question from our YouTube channel from Cynthia Ong. What is the effect of investment in the Philippines considering the debt ceiling concern of US debt? I'm not sure if that question should be directed to either Francis or Attorney Red. Ayan.
To be honest sa akin, I don't see the issue on this. As a matter of fact, it's actually beneficial to us kasi this means that capital from the US is now flocking outside and looking for high growth opportunities. Essentially flagging US as a big concern, diba? They're looking at now other markets that can give them the high returns that they're looking for. And that could be the main thing here. That's the advantage in the Philippines.
Maybe the disadvantage din siguro, Francis, is ang disadvantage lang siguro dyan with the effect, yung effect na yan, the negative side is probably they will try to use those reasons to imitate that there's indeed a problem affecting the Philippine setting. So which probably could give them the avenue to increase the interest, they can increase the the investment percentage. So there's a possibility, but of course, meron naman tayong mga regulatory bodies who does manage these kinds of unnecessary.
Yeah, yung mga ganitong conversations, I guess, could go further than just financial conversations, but also geopolitical, no, depending on the relationships of the individual or the countries, the partner countries that we're talking about. All right. So thank you, Tita Cynthia. I hope that was able to answer your question. Thank you also, Dudes, earlier for those questions. Dudes, nakalimutan kitang i-ask to introduce yourself just a little bit. Just say something about, your business and what you
Hi,
do.
I'm Fernando Academia. I work a few jobs, but also I have my own agency. So Francis knows me as part of Mo Engage, and which businesses use to send push notifications, SMS, email, essentially their customer engagement platform. And pick up coffee signed up with us, so uh,
Cool.
that's for Mo
Yeah, I've
Engage.
been
But
seeing a lot of that
yeah,
lately.
so that's why when he mentioned tech company, oh, that's why. And then but I have my digital marketing agency, and I'm focusing on the consulting part of it now. Most of my clientele US based, coaches, consultants, and consulting firms. I mean, s- some do cleaning. I mean, they would send consultants on the place to check the air quality and so on, and many more. So, yun yung mga client ko overseas. So, again, digital marketing needs, reach out to me.
Thank you so much, dudes. And of course, Coach Jejo of Winner Strengths.
Hello, hello again. I'm Coach Jejo Vicencio from Winner Strength. So I am a strengths coach. I'm Gallup certified. So what we do is we help individuals and teams discover what their strengths are using the Clifton Strengths Assessment, and then we help them leverage that uniqueness to reach their goals. Yeah. So, Presawi, can I ask my
Of
question also?
course. Yes, please.
Ayan, so my question is actually for because a lot of the business owners no in our chapter they're in the startup stage or early stage businesses. My question is how can startups establish credibility and attract investors or lenders or the venture capitalists? What's your advice for startups or early stage businesses? Siguro we'll start again with Attorney Red.
Siguro I would like to ano na lang emphasize more on if they would want to do loans first. If want to access loans like banking loans, financing loans. Uh, it's of course important for them to pay their taxes because one of the requirement is of the bank requirements or financing requirement is for you to be able to provide your tax returns or present your tax returns, whether monthly, quarterly, or annual tax returns. Because there, they can gauge up to what extent yung capacity ng uh, uh, individual or tax or business owner to pay that loan. Um, Doon din magki-create yung magkakapag-establish sila ng credit worthiness, yung tinatawag nilang credit worthiness. And of course, in time, they can also create, doon pumapasok yung magiging uh, aside doon sa pagiging credit worthiness mo, responsible taxpayer ka rin sa community natin, di ba? That's very important. I also believe that for even for venture capitalists, they would require to provide business owners financial statements, or even if wala pang financial statements, just just the yung summary of your summary of your business, yung structure, and then the status, financial status of your business would do. That alone can give talaga the business owners what or the financial institution, or even investor, the idea on up to what extent they can give or they can loan.
Right. Thank you so much, Attorney. That's very helpful. No, talagang the basics dapat it's covered already. Oo. Thank you so much, Attorney. How about you, Francis?
Yeah, sa akin naman, coach, ano naman siya, no? So it's a very, you have to be very deliberate on what you really want. And you have to understand what is it that you want. Is it a loan? Is it are you selling equity, or are you looking for grants, right? So those three you have to kind of be deliberate. Now, if you are looking for loans and the likes, of course, yung sabi nga ni Attorney Red, these are basic. So when you do talk to investors or even banks, right, the first thing they'll ask is documents. And tawag namin doon due diligence or DD, right? We want to make sure that these things are in check. Now, on the other hand, what you also need to do is to start to talk about your business in a very different light. Kasi kaya nga may tinatawag tayong investor deck, yung presentation for the investor. Kasi kailangan makita nila what is it that you really do and where are you taking the business. Di ba? Kaya may hinihingi rin niyang projections. And as you can see, the projections, di ba? Minsan doon makikita kasi sa tao kung ano ka ba, aggressive ka ba, conservative ka ba, o nasaan ka ba, di ba? And then, it's not about the numbers that really hit them. Kasi pag-aaralan nila yan at malalaman namin na ito pala yung gusto mong gawin. Ultimately, the numbers are there to show whether you understand your business well. And kung nakita namin, okay, hindi mo magets na ito pala yung impact sa negosyo mo, automatic yan magde-decline ng investors kasi they have to trust you as a person, as the person they're investing in, rather than just the business. So it's a very deep process, and it comes across as the person, the owner, at saka yung business. Titingnan yan both sides, and they'll have to see whether your investment worthy.
Right.
Yeah. So ganun siya.
Right. Thank you so much, Francis. That's also very helpful. No? So parang the basics, the due diligence, and also like you're laser focused on your vision for your business. It's also very important. Thank you so much, Francis.
Thanks,
Yes,
Jejo.
are we?
So yeah, just dovetailing on that question. So for example, you already have a vision, but you don't yet have a business. Meron bang opportunity still for that person to get the audience at the very least of an investor, or do you already need to have like a setup business that's been existing for X number of years for you to have like at least your foot in the door in front of and get in front of investors? May ganung mga requirements ba? Siguro we can ask Francis first this time.
Sige, I'll answer that. So, depending on who you reach out to. So, for example, if we talk about the 3Fs, no, friends, families, and fools, ito naman more on, napasubok ko na ba sa kanila yung product? Let's say, if I'm selling food, di ba, napatry ko na ba to sa friends ko at sa family ko, nagustuhan ba nila, masarap pa talaga, di ba? Those are questions that they will ask, and whether or not they will invest. Kasi kilala ka nila eh. So, as a person, there's already trust. Now, if you move up a bit towards VC, ang mga venture capitalist naman, titingnan naman yan. Yung target customer mo ba? Kunwari, sinabi ko ang target ko is 24 to 36 years old na babae na nasa Manila, na malapit sa mga schools, kunwari lang, for schools yung binibenta kong pagkain. Na-try na ba nila? Masarap pa talaga para sa kanila? Right? These are questions then. And talaga bang bumibenta? If so, gaano kadalas silang bumili? Tapos, i-multiply ko yan, titingnan ko ngayon gaano kadalas yan and how things are. Doon ko malalaman whether or not okay ba to o pag-invest ba ako o hindi. Right? And then pagka medyo private equity na, ang usapan yan medyo very technical na. Ang usapan na is, ano ba yung gross margins mo? Ano ba ang EBITDA numbers mo? Bakit ganun? Ano yung pwede natin gawin para tumaas to at tumaas yan? So, very different conversations depending on which stage. Umaakit dapat yung knowledge mo. And that's why you need support from consulting firms or people who understand para matulungan ka sa ganitong approach.
Okay. Thank you, Francis. Attorney Red, I have a follow-up question pero hintay muna natin si Attorney Red.
Sige. Naghahang ba ako?
Hindi, tama lang. Yes. No
Tama
problem.
Okay. So,
So yeah,
I
my
agree
question
with
go ahead.
I agree with Francis about it. You really have to assess it first. But at the same time, meron kasing level na when you talk about meron bang probably venture capitalists who can probably provide you even if wala ka pa talagang business or something like that. But you have to think at the same time na meron ka ba talagang may knowledge ka na ba or yung fundamentals in business ba are there? You have the fundamentals? Do you have the fundamentals already? If not, then it's up to you. Merong risk takers, depende kung what level of risk yung pwede kang mag-take. Then go ahead. But if not, if hindi ka masyadong risky, hindi ka risk taker, I would suggest na before you move to the next level, you have to have at least the basic knowledge of the business. not only one aspect but different aspects such as the management, regulatory requirements, the compliance, and of course how you sell your business.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I definitely can imagine how those really are very important considerations. I'm just now realizing how unfairly inaccessible these kinds of knowledge might be for small and medium enterprises, especially those local mom and pop. Well, hindi siguro mom and pop, bro and sis na lang kasi mas bata yung mga nagsa-start ng business nowadays. But how are we, and based on your knowledge, no, what's apart from, of course, what Francis is already involved in, what other help or programs are available for entrepreneurs who do not have all these basics pinned down for them to even think about looking for investments for their respective businesses?
Actually, government agencies, departments have their own programs. I'll give one example. The Department of Agriculture, they have basic, they provide training seminars, free trainings and seminars to for how do you do farming, or how do you do yung mga crops, yung mga products na yon, on how to provide or maintain, and then how to make investment, kung paano ka mag-start. Maraming ganon sa departments, meron silang pinoprovide. Even the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and Securities and Exchange Commission provides basic trainings or guidelines that promotes fundamentals or knowledge on a specific subject or topic. So it depends on the individual or business owner kung saan siya papasok. Whether do you are you interested with um, sa agricultural side? Are you interested with pharmaceutical or health related businesses? Merong mga ganun nagpo-provide din sila ng trainings. Meron tayong avenue for that. And in fact, meron din mga private mga entities that does trainings and seminars free of charge. Of course, merong mga sa mga convention, they're of course free to access the website or other channels to check kung kailan yung mga trainings and seminars, and or even just a simple discussions lang over internet meron siya, just like this.
Yeah, okay, okay. Yeah, that sounds good. And maybe after this, once we get this, the content out, we can add some links that I mean, similar to what you're talking about, Attorney Red, was some links to both the government and private institutions who are offering free, dun mo tayo sa free, free training, learning session, or guidance for, especially for small, medium enterprises to get themselves started with even just thinking about getting an investor for their businesses. Francis, anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, so I think just to add, so sa mga private, for example, Go Negosyo is a very popular one, di ba? Pag talagang basics ang pinag-uusapan, Go Negosyo is a good place for you to start. No? For most of you that will try to look at starting a business, that's the destination. Now, for the ones that are running the business and are considering, I think those parts you need talaga someone that can help you. So if you have accountants who are that you work with, yung mga outsourced CFOs and the likes, you can ask advice on that. Kasi ang question naman talaga dyan, ultimately, here's the problem kasi of most businesses. Kailangan mo ba talaga ng capital? And the issue there is the investors will eventually say at the end, hindi mo naman pala kailangan. Gusto mo lang. Which is then a different story. Diba? Kasi the goal of these capitalists is to magamit yung pera so that it can grow. Pero kung hindi mo rin gagamitin yung pera, itatago mo lang pala sa tabi para lang matuwa ka sa balance mo. Then, syempre, it's not gonna work out, no? And that's something that I personally work with. No? That's why I actually look at a lot of small and medium businesses. Tapos I even advise no a lot of these businesses. Kasi nakikita ko they get yung feeling ng FOMO, yung fear of missing out. Narinig nila yung kabila nakapag-raise ng malaki-laking pera, gusto ring maging ganon. Pero ang tanong, kailangan mo ba? And that question is never answered the right way no nung marami sa mga businesses na ganito.
Okay. Yeah, sounds fair enough. I have a question because my background is in organizational development, so human capital management. And I'm just imagining how some businesses might need to reskill some members of their team in order to cope with the times, like particularly on the technological advances. Is reskilling or investment in people a valid reason for investors to actually make a decision on investing in your organization? And it could be small, medium, even large organizations. Nagiging reason ba yun na acceptable para sa mga investors? May na-encounter na ba kayong ganun? Attorney Red, ikaw, may na-encounter ka na bang ganun?
Yeah, oo. Although, kasi kami when we talk about people, of course, you have to determine whether it's important. Kumbaga parang the work or the deliverables is enough to cover those yung labor, yung workforce, di ba? But if it's not, depende kasi yan sa mga venture capitalists, mga investors, if that would be a good justification for it. But essentially, ang pinaka-important talaga is how to grow your business. If that would be the primary reason, I don't think na um, kumbaga wise decision to mainly involve yung reason mo for that. Pero medyo mahirap medyo mahirap for ano kung ako yung magiging investor, medyo okay, sige, medyo pag-iisipan ko pa because at the end of the day I will still go back to the financials. Kung will this increase the money na papasok sa business.
Yeah. And what about the triple bottom line? And I don't know, Francis, if that's something that you can also speak to. Because of course we have profit and we have the people and the planet. And I think one of the faults of many organizations, especially the big ones, the older ones, is that whenever they talked about their revenue, lagi nilang pinag-uusapan lang kung magkano yung kinita nila, but not necessarily how much the earth or the society or the communities that they operate in have suffered. So dapat kung inimpute lang nila yung cost na yon, then they wouldn't be as successful as they are financially at this time. So going back to my question, if it's a matter of really reskilling to make sure that this organization becomes more fit for growth by enabling their people technologically, and I definitely understand the focus on profits, the focus on revenue, but are there capitalists in the Philippines who we can actually go to and present that idea that's not necessarily directly just impacting profit, but the other two, please?
Okay. So let me break down a bit of that question. So the first part is, yes, there are investors who are after impact. No? So they look for impact metrics. So let's say, carbon emissions and all that stuff
Right.
was what they would look at. But you see, there's also the other part of it. Sustainable ba yan? Diba? Ibig sabihin sustainable, kumikita ka ba at yan? At the end of the day, a business is there, lalo na yung mga for-profit corporations, is there to make a profit. Kung hindi ka kumikita at the end of the day, then what's the point of that, right? Like kung sinusunog mo lang and then you're trying to save. Gumawa ka na lang ng charity that helps the planet, right? If that was the case. So we have to stick to that view. Ngayon, to break down the other question, which is reskilling and then digital, di ba? Pag nire-reskill ko ba and then to dress them up for digital, is that something investors would want? So let me break that down. If you say kasi digital, people kasi get very, parang amazed by the word digital. Parang isang box na hindi natin maintindihan. Uy, ang ganda niya. Parang app, di ba? Parang, paano gumagana yan? Wala akong paki basta nagagawa ko, di ba? But what people don't understand with technology, ano lang naman yan? It's a series of processes that are automated so that it's done faster. Di ba? So before, imbis na fill up ka ng form, registration form, email, mobile, name. Diba? Tapos na. And then the rest can be collected after. So all of this is just the processes of a business. So kung minamap mo yung processes ng business mo, you will then understand how each process impacts the other and how it impacts your overall financials. Kasi kung napabilis ko ba, for example, mag-produce ng siopaw, let's say I'm selling siopaw, kung napabilis ko ba yung paggawa ng siopaw by 2 times, does it generate 2 times in sales? Kung nagkaroon ako ng bagong machine na babagsak ang presyo, let's say, ng production ng siopaw, tataas din ba sales ko? So yun yung ultimate question, di ba? At the end kasi it's the bottom line. So if you talk about reskilling, ang tanong dyan, if you reskill them and then you digitize your process, tataas ba talaga ang sales mo? Or tataas ba ang margin mo? Kung hindi man tumaas ang sales mo sa top line, tataas ba yung bottom line margin mo? If the answer was yes, then maybe there is that opportunity. Kasi ang ultimate question, yung tinaas sa sales dyan, magkano dyan pwedeng bumalik sa akin as an investor? Then kung ganun, kailan mo ako mababayaran buo dun sa pera na ininvest ko sa'yo? Right? So that's why it's very important to understand na you have to return the money of the investor. It's part of that deal.
Right. So, sorry, may follow-up question lang ako. Yung timing lang on what is the standard expectation of an investor? I know it might vary per industry or how fast you're actually anticipating or how fast the growth is in that particular industry. But is there like a ballpark duration ng returns na ina-expect ni investors?
Okay, so let's categorize. So let's say we're talking about the 3 Fs again, the friends, family,
Yeah,
friends,
right.
Yan medyo mas maluwag yan. Kasi sabi mo lang sa kaibigan mo or sa friends mo, sa family mo na, uy, sorry, hindi nakabenta masyado
When
this month.
able,
When able, babalik ko sa'yo, ha. Sometime soon, hindi ko alam kailan. So they're a bit more forgiving, no? They're a bit more forgiving.
Right.
They're less calculated. They're very loving and trusting. That's the other side. Now we talk about VCs and PEs, no? So venture capitalists and private equity. Let's combine them too. Typically, the life cycle of a fund is 5 years. So kung nagpasok ako ng capital sa'yo, I need to get it returned in 5 years. So the question there is, can you return it in 5 years? And if so, how many times more?
Right.
So yun yung question doon. And that's why it's very
Right.
different from 2 sides.
Oo. Thank you, Francis. Attorney Red, on the legal side, if I am not able to fulfill the contract, like I promised, for example, I don't know, a 10% growth in the investment or whatever it is that I promised to the investor, and I'm not able to deliver on that, apart from financial liabilities, what else as a business owner will I be liable for?
Mainly, it's breach of contract kasi yan eh.
Oo.
So, we're talking kasi when we talk about the framework of accessing the equity, we have to categorize it as mandatory or coercive, meaning those that are mandatory or imposed by the law or the regulation, and then there's this voluntary, which is a contract. So if it's a contract and then it stipulates that there's this 10% return in the from the investment or something like that, dun papasok yung breach where you will be subject to um, indemnification or liabilities or penalty na bound siya or entitled si uh, lender or investor. So we just have to understand that investors such as venture capitalists, private equity firms, angel investor, crowdfunding backers, they provide equity financing to entrepreneurs mostly and equity
Right.
financing. So in exchange for their investment, they receive an ownership stake
Right.
or shares in the company. Or if not, it may be in a form of bonds, in a form of interest, but still you have to return or to give based doon sa contract mo or sa agreement ninyo. So if you fail to do that, then you will be subject to civil indemnification or civil liability, which is you either pay them the necessary pay them the exact amount plus plus interest surcharges, tapos meron pang mga um, penal sanctions, yung mga payments na bibigay sa'yo based on contract. Or if it falls under the ano na within the court na, of course meron ng mga ini-impose yung judge, not in favor doon sa nag-breach ng contract. So yun yung disadvantage nun. uh, Possible result nito is the death of your business. So you may dissolve the business or retire the business. You need to retire and dissolve the business in order for you to have or have enough money to pay for your creditors.
Yeah, and then there's a whole other conversation about whether you're a single proprietor, you're a one-person corporation, you're a
Yes,
corporation, ganun, di ba? Iba-iba yun.
different types of liability naman yon. So if you're a single proprietorship, it can go more than your initial investment sa business. Personal, papasok. Corporation, only within the investment, something like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Dudes and Jejo, do you have any more questions for our guests? Si Dudes, meron pa yan nasa listahan yan.
Medyo. Hindi kasi, anyway, I have been with, I mean, I joined a lot of startup events, and most of the worries of a startup entrepreneur, parang eto na lang, how do entrepreneurs make sure na if they have a bright idea and they pitch to the investor, it doesn't get pirated, picked up, whatsoever. I mean, of course, I have some sort of an understanding where this will go, but how do we protect ourselves if we are really that genius like Elon Musk and we pitch an idea to investors? How do we protect that idea from being pirated? Maybe Francis first.
Yeah, I think alam mo na yung sagot doon, di ba? Alam mo na yung sagot doon. But
Partial lang.
oo.
Hindi yung depth.
So some startups would require, for example, mag-sign ng NDA or confidentiality, no? But you see, depending kasi sinong kausap mo, typically for venture capitalists, it's a big no-no. We don't sign those things. Kasi, we see similar companies every day. It's the same thing. Pare-parehas yan. Minsan, iba-ibang style, no? And you can't expect that part to be not copied. Lalo na kung napaka-genius talaga ng idea mo. Someone will copy it, or you may have copied it from someone else as well, di ba? Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about execution. It's how you execute the idea kasi that differentiates. That's why, if you notice, as I said, my profile is a venture builder, no, rather than a venture capital. Kasi it's about how do you execute the idea rather than ang ganda ng idea mo. Kasi at some point, may kokopya at may kokopya naman sa'yo. So how do you make yourself stand out from the market na marami nangongopya? And that's a question for you as the owner to be able to address.
I
All right,
agree.
Attorney
Kasi,
Red.
ano siguro, personally, based on my, I think, intellectual property regulations or yung implementation of the IP here in the Philippines, marami pa siyang room for improvement. So, uh, you, although probably not on the implementation, but the knowledge or idea of the intellectual property per se, ang kulang siguro, mutual siguro dapat yon. That's the reason why it's very important to have at least yung pwedeng maipasok, like confidentiality or non-disclosure agreement. Diba? So I'll give you a heads up. Pag sinabi nila na non-disclosure agreement or confidentiality agreement pertains to confidentiality between the two parties, it must be notarized. Bigyan ko kayo ng idea, it's not necessary that the NDA or confidentiality agreement must be notarized. Kasi otherwise, if you notarize it, the CA or NDA will form part of a public document. So, required ka na or bound ka na to provide the NDA or the confidentiality agreement i-disclose kasi public document na siya. So, a simple signing of both parties would do is it already effective and under kumbaga that form part it is valid and ano na siya pwede mo nang i-execute against if ever there are violation of hindi the violation of confidentiality. But again, sabi nga ni Francis, normally hindi naman kasi talaga na depende kasi yun kung ano yung work or which type of intellectual property you're talking about. If it's copyright, if it's patent, or if it's invention. So if you would want at least have a little bit of security, then kung invention yung ginawa mo, try to register it before the intellectual property of the Philippines here in Taguig. So probably pwede yon. They can issue you a certification concerning that works. Pero ma-define din ng intellectual property if yung i-register ninyo not within the bounds of their respective jurisdiction. So, okay na rin. So, try. Baka pwede. If it's invention or patent. Pero usually, pag mga ideas lang, medyo mahirap talaga That's what I'm, ano rin din kay Francis. Francis is right. Depende lang din talaga if you know that person very well or you think na hindi mapagkakatiwalaan naman sila, pwede rin. Pwede mo naman sa kanilang i-share.
All right. May follow-up question ako doon, if I may.
Sige.
Related pa rin doon sa pag-pitch to investors. Being an entrepreneur trying to pitch my business now, how do I protect my interest during the fundraising rounds? How do I make sure that there's something left for me? Parang ganon. Or how should I consider that even? Considering, yeah, I don't know how investment works. So if I go in and have my first round, what should I remember on my second round? Or what is a second round even? Parang ganon. So what are the considerations that I should have to protect my interest during funding or uh, fundraising rounds?
Okay, should I answer first?
Yeah, sige, go ahead,
Sige.
Francis.
Sige. I think there's two parts to it. No? The first part is understanding the meaning of equity. No? So if you imagine equity is just, let's say you have a company and you own 100% of it, meaning you're the owner, the only owner of that company. The moment someone invests into it, yung percent mo liliit in general. So let's say someone invests and owns 20% and now you own 80%. Those are the things that you have to understand. Ano yung percentage? Not just the number of shares. The number of shares may be more irrelevant at this point in time. Lalo na kung first time you're raising. what you have to be careful about is what percent are you being diluted to, di ba? Kasi you have to make way for that new investor. So that's the first thing. Rule of thumb typically is somewhere between 20 to 30% is how much the investor will eat up at the beginning per round, no? But it goes lower as you prove that your business works. So that's why it's in your best interest to show na gumagana at maganda yung sales at metrics on your business. Now, the second part of it is, okay, now I understand yung pie. The second part is, you gotta understand dito natatakot yung tao, parang makikialam ba sa akin ng investor? Baka naman masyado silang mag-impose ng rules. And this is what you call the board of directors na. And this is the part kasi, iba kasi ang CEO, COO, mga naririnig nating mga management team, yan ang mga nag-execute ng idea. So pwede kang both maging management team at meron ka ring board of director na nasa ibabaw. Board of directors are there to help on the direction of the company. So typically dito pinapresenta yung mga malalaking direction na gagawin nyo ngayong taon or every quarter meron kang ginagawa and you're updating them anong mga nangyayari sa negosyo. So that part is two different roles yan. Kaya nga may makikita kayo, chairman and CEO. Diba? Merong president and CEO. Iba-iba yan. So there's a different role on the board and different role on the management. So normally, ang mga owners at management, lagi na sa mga C-level yan. CEO, COO, maririnig mo yan. Diba? And then there's the other part, which is board of directors. Ang board of directors, sila ang nagsiset ng direction ng company. Overall direction. So, in that regards, typically may tinatawag tayong board seats. Dito nyo nakikita sa mga telenovela, yung mga nag-uusap sila sa isang malaking mesa, tapos nagbobotohan, tumataas ng kamay. That's the board meeting. Ngayon, in the board meeting, all it is just, let's say, nagsisimula kang negosyo, let's say meron kang 5 board seats. The majority is the winner. So let's say may binring up kang agenda, o itong ngayong direction, gagawa tayo ng 200 showpows ngayong quarter. Bumoboto ngayon ng board of directors, whether they agree or they don't, yun yung pagbobotohan. Ngayon, kung hindi nag-agree yun, then you can't, the direction will change, di ba? Hindi tayo magbenta ng siopaw, magbenta tayo ng siomai, for example. And that part, you have to understand. So, meron kang typically, let's say, 3 to 5 seats yan sa simula, the first time that you're gonna raise. There's 3 to 5 seats. You can choose who you want to be on that 5 seats. Pwedeng ikaw, your partner, your husband or wife, or kung normally ganyan, di ba? Or you can have other people on that board. Majority rules yan. So you gotta make sure that you have the majority of the board with you para direction mo pa rin ang mag-ano. Although, syempre, without disrespect, the investor has put in capital because they believe in you. So, kailangan mong intindihin na even though 1 vote lang siya, na outnumber mo siya, but because they have the capital there, minsan may hiyayan at may respeto. So therefore, minsan bumabalance yan at some point. And it's that's where the politics kicks in. And you gotta understand how to handle this board situation. Hindi naman yan sobrang formal at the beginning. It's gonna be very informal. But you gotta understand that you have to learn how to play these games. Otherwise, wala, you're gonna keep being small. That's the problem.
I totally agree with Francis because at the end of the day, you're talking about business. And if you're talking about business, you talk about ownership then. If you establish your business, of course, ang idea mo is the ownership. Pag corporation, syempre, ang ownership naman dyan is intangible. Meaning, it's more equity eh. Doon pumapasok yung equity ownership mo. So, make sure that, of course, hindi mo naman pwedeng lahat kunin eh. Diba? Because otherwise, you won't be able to have investors or possible investors, and 30 to 40%, actually masakit na nga yun, di ba? Tapos there's a opportunity pa na madadilute mo pa kapag increase yung value mo, and then you have to increase the capital value of your business. Kailangan mong i-increase, may possibility madilute din yung ownership mo. The end of the day, it's important for entrepreneurs to understand the specific expectations, requirements, and risk associated with different lenders and investors. Kasi if you develop a compelling business plan, for example, financial projections, and a clear value proposition, it can enhance talaga the ability to attract right lenders or investors. So, para din ma-eliminate din yung mga uncertainties, might as well secure the the necessary information, 'di ba? Or ideas or knowledge to grow your business.
Okay, thank you po. Ah, Miss Awi,
Yeah, we're
back to
now
you.
we're now actually 1 minute past the top of the hour, and parang habang nag-uusap tayo, lalo pang dumadami yung questions ko sa utak ko. But I know we only asked 1 hour of your time, so we're going to stop here. And first, ask maybe as parting words or your last advice for tonight for our viewers or small medium enterprises particularly, what questions, siguro maybe two questions that they should ask themselves as they think about exploring financing options for their businesses? What two questions would they ask themselves as they explore financing options? Who would like to go first? Ay, parang hinighlight na si
Sa
attorney.
akin,
Hinighlight na bigla si
ang bilis eh,
attorney.
no? Ano,
Hindi ko sinasadya.
sa akin, know your vision. Know your vision and the business itself. It doesn't matter if you don't have necessary idea of what's the business, but at least a little bit of knowledge of the business. Eventually, kung saan category na yun, dun na mafa-follow yun. So just have your vision and eventually know your business. Uh, so that pag gusto mo talagang mag-proceed with or mag-start ng business or growing your business, you know how to attack properly or to present. Pangit siguro
Attack.
yung word na attack,
Yeah.
but present.
Yeah. Thank you. Those are easy enough, at least for me, Attorney Red. Thank you so
Sa
much
ako
for
din.
your time. And
Thank you very
Francis, thank
much then.
you. Francis,
Yeah, I
two
think
questions or two things.
the two things you gotta ask yourself is, one, kailangan mo ba talaga ng pera? Right? Yun yung una. And you have to dig deep. You have to have a reason on why you need the money. Hindi pwedeng gusto ko lang. Again, you have to be very specific. The second part is, saan mo gagamitin? If you don't know where you're gonna put the money, then don't take it. Kasi walang kwenta na meron kang pera sa bangko na napakadaming zero, pero hindi ka rin, di ba, hindi mo rin alam what to do. And those two parts will require you to work with someone who understands it. So that's why, if you have, uh, you know, try to find those guys that can work. And I guess side note, if you guys are looking to raise funds or you're trying to raise or even to sell your business, do reach out to me because I'm looking at opportunities to buy or invest into these businesses. So kung merong naghahanap, please reach out to me.
Ayun, perfect. So guys, if you are waiting for a sign to think about exploring financing options for your business, please reach out to Francis. We'll share, is it okay if we share your LinkedIn profile on the
Sure.
recording of this YouTube? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you again to Attorney Red Gomez and Francis for giving us your time today. Ako personally, I really learned a lot from our conversation. And as I said, mas marami pa ako ngayong tanong, no? And I hope that we could continue the conversation. For those who are watching a recording of this video, if you have any questions, please feel free to also type in your questions. And Dudes, do you have any announcements for us?
Announcement. No, sorry, mayroon lang akong isang related thing that we forget to mention. I get to learn these things about the startup, about investing, about validating your idea, and so on through networking. And what good way we can really network on Thursday, 6:30 a.m. We invite you to join our BNI meetings. So we'll be putting the link on the YouTube video later on. So join us. We'll be welcoming you there, and you'll surely have fun. Pero again, there is also a lot you'd learn from business owners that you won't learn on your own. So networking is really a good thing to start from if you're trying to do business. So ayun lang, may singit ko lang konti.
Maraming salamat. Thank you so much again, guys. And I hope you had fun learning with us. And again, let's continue the conversation. Please type in your comments and we'll try our best to respond to them. Bye.
Bye.